Right, without taking up too much time, first I would like to introduce our first speaker. So Przemek Bogusz. So Przemek, I hope I pronounced your name correctly there. Apologies if I haven't. But Przemek Bogusz is currently leading the financial services division of Comarch in the Middle East and Africa region. Graduate of 3 European universities with over 10 years experience gained on IT projects from the US through Europe to the Middle East, presenting on how to win SMEs in the fintech area. Przemek, over to you.
Great. Thank you very much, Amit, for the introduction. And that was excellent pronunciation. I know that some of Polish names could be a tongue twister, but you did an awesome job on that. Thank you very much for inviting me here. It's great pleasure to actually be on the event. And definitely it is challenging times where we're all joining probably from our offices or either from our living rooms. But it's still great that we are able to come here and share our insights into where the banks is heading and on the digital transformation. Like Amit said, my name is Przemek Bogusz. I'm located in the Middle East area for the last 6 years, living in Dubai. And I'm meeting very often with the banks. That gives me quite a good understanding what banks in Middle East are looking for and what is their roadmap for their digital transformation. And I would like to share today a bit of my insight to SME banking world, or just to tell you how to win SMEs in the fintech era. And hopefully you are able to see right now my screen. I would like to tell you a little bit on the SME banking, because small and medium enterprises, it's a segment of clients that can be considered as quite problematic. Many of the actually banks consider that as unprofitable or costly to serve, and rather it's obliged to service than try to find this attractive business on its own. And it could be very easily explained when we look at the structure of the bank, where from one side we have the retail banking segment. They're having usually the products that are quite easy to serve, the services easily to serve, but the volume of the customer or the mass effects is bringing a very considerate revenues to the bank. Therefore, the banks very often chase this kind of segment of the customers. On the other side of spectrum, we have the corporate banking customers that have completely other set of requirements. They have very sophisticated, very complex products and services they require. Therefore, it's a big amount of attention required for them, but it's quite lucrative revenues and it's bringing very good ratio of cost to serve to revenues. And somewhere in between, we have a small and medium enterprises. And the ratio here of cost to serve to revenues doesn't fall that well, because they are still demanding quite a lot of different set of functionalities, and the revenues that are coming cannot be considered as lucrative as corporate banking. Therefore, those customers are very often considered as a low priority client. And while actually the sufficient funding is one of the most important ingredients to actually make those enterprises thrive, the Middle East is showing that they're having quite poor support into that, and the largest gap in the world actually in the financial inclusion for the SMEs. So when the SMEs cannot find the support in the banks, they're very often going to the private investors. But usually meeting goes for months, and right now, especially when the times are difficult with COVID, the face-to-face meetings are not possible. So to get the private investors, it's not that easy, and very often finish with the dead end. And it might be quite surprised as well why those SMEs are treated so low and they're underserved. Because if you look at the Saudi Arabia market, we can see that actually 99% of private sector companies are SMEs. Although they generate and contribute around 20% of the nation GDP, which is quite low comparing by size and volume to the local or world peers. For example, the GDP coming from the SMEs worldwide, it's on the average of 45%, and just in UAE, it's around 53%. But there are very positive hopes, and there's a lot of actions being taken care right now. A great deal of resources have been actually dedicated to small and medium enterprises in Saudi Arabia. So under the vision of 2030, we see that there is a big plan of increased SME contribution to the GDP from around 20% that it's standing right now to 35% in the next 10 years. SMEs are expected to play a vital role in diversifying the economy away from the oil and to provide actually employment for the younger child generation. Okay, so with this kind of positive feel for the SMEs, we can consider, okay, what SMEs are actually looking for. And definitely it will change based on the type of a business they're leading, and they might have a big portfolio of variety of demands, but some of them are quite common for all of them, like accounting, payroll payments, seeking financing, so important for the SMEs, as well marketing their products or cybersecurity. But probably the most clear and one of the most obvious reasons is actually that they have very large appetite for digital services. This is often a tech-savvy companies with younger generation that they want to be able to conduct all of their business in the digital channels to be served online completely. Unfortunately, only about 1/3 of the customers in SME feels that their bank is able to understand their small business. This is the global data, and the bank is actually not exactly the place where they try to get the support. So where else they can go? Of course, they'll tour into the Google. They type the services they might be requiring, and they just find within a second hundreds or thousands of results about the fintechs, crowdfunding, or peer-to-peer lending companies that are already supporting them. Many of them actually already existing in Middle East, which is very good news for SMEs. So for crowdfunding, we have Eureka, for example, or peer-to-peer lending, Beehive. And it's right now up to the banks what kind of choice they would like to take, because we are in the crossroad where we can take two main roads. The banks can either do nothing and let fintechs take over big part of SME business, and then they will concentrate on the corporations, or they can try to support SMEs and tap into the segment and figure out what's the best way to do it. Some of the banks in the Middle East already have taken this path, like Emirates NBD or Mashreq Bank. And I wanted to tell you 3 tips on how to win SMEs in the fintech era. First, become more open, design for the future. So it's important to build applications that are open platforms rather than closed solution. And let me give you an example how this can work. So we can imagine the customer is looking for coffee. In the example of closed solution, we can bring an entire solution into the vending machine that makes a nice coffee, and the results is quite obvious over here. From the perspective of open platform, we can build it from the single components. We take water and necessary electricity, add it to the kettle, add some coffee beans, and we have very similar effect of coffee. The problem appears when the customer finally changes his mind and he wants to have tea now. So we have a problem with vending machine. We either need to replace it for a new one, or we need to ask the vendor to make some changes that neither can be cheap or fast. While in the open platform, we can just change one of the components, and that will change the entire result. In the banking world, this could look like that. We want to make some foreign transfer. We get the FX rate, we get fee amounts from the external systems. We digest it through our online banking system, go through approve and release, and then we send it to a SWIFT network for sending the transfer. But what if you want to change parameters of the transfer? For example, we want to have it faster or in the different fees. Well, we can just change one of the components, for example, for Ripple, and the result will be completely else in this case. Having this in mind, we need to really think about designing the application that will be very easily adjustable in the concept of how they look inside, how we can change single components and modules, but as well how to provide those APIs to be able to join the external systems. So many of the fintechs can already have a technology that is good and is working very well. We can just provide the APIs that they can join any moment. Second tip is to become more available. The access to websites went much higher in mobile devices in last year than any other digital channels. So it means that actually mobile have become the first device to be used globally. And we especially need to think about those SMEs that this is their new office. The smartphone or the tablet is the place where they will do most of the business, being on the run or leading the business. Therefore, we need to design the applications having the most important financial data very easily accessible from the palm of their hands, to be able to entry, review, approve different transactions just through the mobile phone, and focus on the out of the business banking, having of course notifications and number of functionalities existing there. So we start with the mobile device, go to tablet, and then of course for the complementation we can have the web access through the normal online channels through laptop, but this is something for more as a complement being in the office than a first focus. And there is a number of banks that are already actually going purely mobile, and they are very successful banks with a number of millions of customers using them. The third tip is to become more intuitive, because it's not a case to actually provide all of the products and services, but they will be so entangled and complicated to provide to the customer that they will get lost and will struggle to have it. We need to provide to customers kind of friction experience, to provide them this kind of easy to navigate through application experience and easy to finish particular tasks. So if there's some products, we really need to let the customer journey flow so easy that the customer will feel that it doesn't bring any kind of hassle. And how this can be done? Well, it usually requires years of work to bring this kind of perfect user experience. We need to do a lot of testing. And after many of the iterations, we are able to actually find the proposition that will be leading the fastest effects to our clients. And it's very often considered that if the customer doesn't know how to go through the application or make mistakes, it's not his actual mistakes, it's the mistakes of the design that we need to change. And few of the examples of how we can support this optimization in the user experience could be, for example, contextual tips. So we can imagine a situation where the SME is having some pending transactions, but the account balance is not sufficient to fulfill it all. Therefore, the application can pop up instantly information or alert that there is insufficient funds and to go for additional funding. Within one click, we are already in the process of making a landing, and we are going to start from there. Across the application, there could be as well a Google-like search engine where typing literally few letters can give us instantly results of something that we are most probably looking for, because it's checking through all of the fields that are available in the system and providing for this particular user based on previous history what he is probably looking for. Similar case works with the data autocomplete. To speed up the data entry, the system already understands the user history and knows that which kind of transactions, account, or different type of data was looked for before, and providing this kind of information at first and autocomplete all of the fields in the application. So a win-win strategy, actually, in 3 simple steps to summarize it. We need to become more open. We build applications that are very easily adjustable, and when the business grows, we can quickly extend or adjust the platform. We need to think as the mobile first, as this is the device that the clients is always having with them and they can access it. And the last of all, it's become more intuitive. Focus on user experience and accessibility of the products and how easy to get to them. I would like to tell you as well a few words about the company that I'm working for last years in Middle East. And I can tell you we are having right now presence in Dubai for last 20 years with offices there, and as well we have offices in Saudi Arabia. And we are having actually over 100 banks that we cooperate currently around the globe in last 20 years. And this gives us a quite good understanding, not only to the SME banking heritage that we are having, but as well of number of different requirements, digital paths, and how the banks plans for the future. How we build it, we very often do user experience improvements. We add new modules and new features that can be changed, added, or erased any moment. And we work on the technological improvements. And this is all based on our clients' requirements, other banks' existing requirements, what are our competition providing, and what are the market trends and regulations. And this put all into action, provide us the idea how the banks are looking to digitalize their products. And many of them we are able to provide and we are providing for the last 20 years, not only SME banking, but as well platforms as corporate banking, loan origination, digital insurance, wealth and asset management, and few others. And I'll be definitely glad to tell you more about that and about the SME banking. So I'll invite you to visit our booth, our virtual booth of Comarch, and I'll be glad to answer some questions and to tell you more about those products. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very, very interesting presentation now. And actually, as a few of the fintechs you flashed up, there are some of our big competitors here in the UK, and for sure their services are quite unique. And you know, we learn from them as Lloyds is the UK's largest retail bank. We've been in existence for almost 300 years, and we've got used to offering services that we deem appropriate. One of the big shifts we're seeing with the fintech community is they offer services that customers can tailor to themselves, which is actually quite a game changer for us. And it's very much consistent with what we see in terms of customers using technology for their own use and making it work for them. So it's a big thing for us to think about. So some very interesting concepts you've presented there.